got this dream on the 26th of March of 2021. And it was my husband and I. My husband's name is Chris. And Chris and I were traveling and checked into our room. As I entered, I saw him standing by the bed, which was all white linen, and the table by the bed had a lamp on it, and it was on.
Hmm.
There was a vase with red roses and palm leaves as the filler in the arrangement on the table.
Hmm.
He was smiling and had the look of excitement on his face, like when you can't wait to give a person or wait for the person that you've given the gift to open it. He was just had that look of, I can't wait for her to see that. And so I asked him if the roses were for me, and he nodded yes. Then I was in the bathroom, and there was a wet garment hanging over the shower rod. I didn't understand why that it was there, and I looked up in the ceiling, and I saw that it was old and crumbling looking. I said, "Oh, we have to go. This won't do." And we left. It was at night, and I remember looking up at the new hotel with the signage saying Doubletree, and the trees on the building signage were green and brown like living trees, and they were grown together.
Do you know the name of the first hotel you were staying in?
No,
No.
it started,
Okay.
and we had just entered the room.
It's just under the room. There was white linen. There was a side table, an end table, and it had a lamp on, and the lamp was on,
Mhm.
right? And he was standing there with this giddy look on his face, like he was about to give you this big surprise, and he wanted to see
Mhm.
how you would react. And then you went into the bathroom, and there was that where it
It
was?
was
Over
a
the shower?
mhm.
And so it was, to describe that again, it was like a big piece of like a towel or a matted up something.
It was like a wet garment. I don't know if it was like a it's like a piece of clothing, but I didn't know what kind of clothing it was like. It had been I know it was a dark piece of clothing. It was
A dark
maybe
piece of
black or
clothing.
dark,
Interesting.
but I didn't know if it was like a dress or a shirt, or I just saw it hanging over and it was a dark piece of clothing or a garment.
Yeah. The way you described it, for some reason, I just felt like it smelled really bad. Did you get that sensation in the dream at all?
Not in this dream, no.
That's just what came to my mind, was that it was like, oh, it was like a
But the
presence that it's
bathroom,
like,
the restroom was so different, or the bathroom was so different from the room. The room was
mm,
like all like the bedding and everything was bright, but when I went to the restroom, it was like I stated, it was not as nice as the room itself. And that, like I said, the tiles on the ceiling were all crumbly and yucky looking.
wow, that's awesome. I mean, not really. It sounds like a really danky kind of bathroom compared to like this great hotel room where you're like, I hate it when
Yeah,
you do that. You go into the room and you're like, oh, this is good. And then you go into the bathroom and it's like a roach motel and you're like, no, we're out of here, dude. And that's exactly how you were. You're like, nah, we're out. So
yeah.
this is fascinating. How long have you been married?
15 years.
You paused there. You were like,
Well,
I put
it
on
was the
the
new
spot.
year and it was our anniversary. It was like our 15-year anniversary this year. So it
Oh,
was
wow.
January 1st.
Congratulations.
So
That's amazing. Well, the thing that's interesting is a bathroom, particularly in a bathroom in a hotel, is the secret place, right? It's also the room with no doors. A room with, or I'm sorry, with no windows. A room with no windows can also be representative of your heart, not necessarily your heart, but a heart, somebody's heart. And so I feel like what God was showing you was being in a place where something wasn't right on the inside, right? And there was something that needed to be fixed. There was a kind of a dark garment. You weren't really sure what it was. It just was like, didn't really belong there. The inside, the internal work, like maybe they remodeled the whole room and everything was great outside, but the bathroom was just like, no, this wasn't where you wanted to be. And so I feel like that part is, there's a shift that you want to happen. It's like a surprise that he wants to show you. And, guys can be that way. They're like, look at this. This is amazing. And you're like, but have you checked the bathroom, Junior? Because I'm not staying here. This is nasty. And guys are like, oh, it's no big deal. Whatever. Look at the bed, though. This is great. And so So I feel like what happened is there's a shift. There was this dark garment, and a garment can represent, and especially like, put on the garment of praise for the spirit of
Mhm.
heaviness. I feel like there was a level of heaviness in this bathroom, in the secret place, which could represent the heart. It could also represent, not in a bad way, but it could represent the heart of the relationship. You know, now I'm not speaking anything negative over you or your husband or your marriage, but I do feel like there's a part where God wants to upgrade you. And the whole idea was you were the one, and it was your discernment that said, I'm going to go in here and check this out. And you're like, yeah, this won't do. We need to shift. And when you shifted, you went to the double tree. Now, it's interesting about the double tree, of course, is I immediately think of Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the tree, which is at the beginning, it's a very, very good dream because it's about how opulent and how big this tree is and all of that stuff. But it's also a warning because there's a transition where the tree gets cut down, right? But then it can regrow later if he deals with his pride. So that dream in particular is a dream of warning and transformation. Your dream is also a dream of warning and transformation, where it's like things may look good on the base level and on the outside, but God is saying, look a little deeper and examine the inside of your heart and his heart and your marriage, and make sure that there's no level of heaviness, because, and this is really the punchline of the dream, is he wants you guys to grow together as this tree that's intertwined, literally the double tree. So that's talking about the first part of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, where it was this opulent place where people could come and they could rest, and the animals and the birds could play, and it was extremely, exceedingly fruitful. But it also represents the idea of great, great leaders, like a national level leadership thing. And so what I feel like God is saying is he has so much more for you guys in your marriage. And when you feel a shift that, hey, let's go somewhere else, it's because he wants to upgrade you in the level of leadership of who you guys are as a couple, but also how closely intertwined you are, literally growing together into the fullness of what he has for you. Does that make
Wow.
sense?
It does.
So again, the first part's not negative, but the first part, an adjustment is made. And an adjustment is made because you sent some things. The husband's like, hey, cool, I got the room, we're good, and you walk in and you're like, nah, this will not do. And so it's the idea that God is showing you something through your discernment and the women's intuition that you have, where you're like, you know what, I feel like we could grow deeper. I feel like we could go bigger. I feel like there's more that we could accomplish in the kingdom, for the world, whatever. And so we go to the double, and the idea of the two trees intertwined, I think is just absolutely fascinating. It's also interesting because you said the trees were brown and green. So the leaves were green and
Mhm.
the main part of the tree was brown. Is that how it was?
Well, I don't know which way I'm going. It was like this. Or
Hold
straight
on,
up, and it was at the top.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Hold on just a second. Okay. Yeah. So the leaves were green and the trunk was brown.
And it, right, and it was huge. They were grown together.
Yeah.
It was a big, and then there's the vase with the roses and palm leaves.
Wow. Yeah.
And
That's
all my
absolutely
thoughts.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So that's the idea of obviously healthy growth, live, fully expressed, being alive. There's a tree that's mentioned in Ezekiel, also mentioned in Revelation when it talks about the new city, and it's the tree by the stream of water that's flowing in the middle of the city, and it says the leaves are for the healing of the nations.
Hmm.
And so that's what I believe a power couple, like two leaders growing together, can create such a shelter for other people that even other leaders can come and be like, man, I don't know what it is about you guys, but your marriage is so strong and there's so much love here. And we feel so incredible and so fruitful when you're around you, that it can literally bring healing to other people that may be going through some difficult times. And I feel like this is what God has for you. It's the idea of longevity. It's the idea of, and you think of, big, big trees. I think of like an oak tree and how they can, hundreds of years old, they can be huge. But this is almost like the idea of, and the ones that you were showing in the first part that were straight up were kind of almost like the idea of redwoods too, which is super, super tall, super long. That's like the ultimate big tree, right? And exceedingly fruitful and a level of growth. And so I would just take that to the Lord, not in any corrective way, but just in an adjustment way, like David did, where he said, "Search me, O God, and know my heart." And just say, is there anything that we might need to adjust a little bit? Because what God is showing you in the sign of the new hotel, the DoubleTree, is where he wants to take you. And it's an incredible place. It's an amazing place. So that's a really good dream.